What you're about to hear is part 4 of a multi-part series on the First World War. Falkenhayn's plan was brutally simple. The French, forced to fight in a crucial but narrowly constricted corner of the Western Front, would be compelled to feed reinforcements into a battle of attrition, where the material circumstances so favored the Germans that defeat was inevitable. How can I lure millions of men into a confined space and just pound them into marmalade? Verdun. Earth-moving equipment, construction machinery, and everything required to prepare the offensive and support 300,000 troops in winter came rolling up to Verdun. By the second week of February, everything was in place for an offensive with the potential to change the course of the war. Operation Judgment. Thousands of projectiles are flying in all directions, some whistling, others howling, others moaning low, and all uniting into one infernal roar. The lumps of steel fall down like a heavy shower from high above. Hell and damnation. A hurricane. A tempest growing ever stronger where it was raining nothing but paving stone. Upon the terrible din of the explosions were superimposed the splintering crashes of rending wood, as the great 210mm shells lopped off branches or uprooted the trees themselves. Barely had the tree trunks fallen than they were spewed up into the air again by fresh eruptions. The earth was vomiting all around us. They directed their fire not merely onto positions they wished to take, or onto lines they wished to obliterate, but into all that nature had grown, and that man had erected as well, making up in density for what they lacked in precision. There has never been such a bombardment in war. 280, 305, 380, even 420 millimeters wide, and with lesser shells bearing toxic gases as well. Method rather than rage. Hell is in front of me, and behind me the officer's revolver. My heart sank, and a feeling of horror overcame me. This is Mordor. They have nothing more to hope for. All along the line, men could be seen throwing up their arms and collapsing, never to move again. The columns trampled over the howling wounded. Heavily laden men falling into the water-filled holes remained there until they drowned, unable to crawl up the greasy side. The soldiers grabbed their throats, choking and writhing in excruciating pain from the searing chlorine gas. A figure stripped to the waist with a ripped-open back leaned against the parapet. Another, with a triangular flap hanging off the back of his skull, emitted short, high-pitched screams. If ever men were raving mad with terror, these men were. The stench of death hung over the jumble of decaying corpses like some hellish perfume. The bread we ate, the stagnant water we drank, everything we touched had a rotten smell, owing to the fact that the earth around us was literally stuffed with corpses. They have nothing more to hope for. Tens of thousands of men came to grips and did their best to murder each other. This is Mordor. There has never been such a bombardment in war. The system of the power hammer, rather than the obstinacy of the battering ram, drove the destruction. The morbid calculus presaged the carpet bombing and ignite entire landscapes. The thought was purely tactical, to devastate, so that the infantry could infiltrate. It's no longer an army, those are corpses. There they are, waiting for you, up there, thousands of them. The sight is hellish. In the distance, in the valley, and upon the slopes, regiments spread out, and as they deploy, fresh troops come pouring in. There's a whistle over our heads. It's our first shell. It falls right in the middle of the enemy infantry. We telephone through, telling our batteries of their hit, and a deluge of heavy shells is poured on the enemy. A giant shell bursts quite close to our observation post, breaking the telephone wire and interrupting all communication with our batteries. Once more, our shells carve awful gaps in their ranks. Nevertheless, like an army of rats, the Boches continue to advance in spite of our marmites. By the thousands, they were shot down. We can see men maddened, men covered with earth and blood falling one upon the other. When the first wave of the assault is decimated, the ground is dotted with heaps of corpses, but the second wave is already pressing on. Then our heavy artillery bursts forth in fury. The whole valley is turned into a volcano, and its exit is stopped by the barrier of the slain. End quote.